Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, February 27th. We are here live. We're going to open the phone lines right now. Today is a free-for-all. We have no guest. We have no themes. All up to you and anything you want to talk about today. Phone lines are open, so jump in and join us. 855-950-3835. I've got some odds and ends stuff I've been collecting over the weekend. I'll go through some of that. If the calls start coming in, I'll get to the calls and I'll leave some of these for a commentary this week. A lot of stuff going on, obviously, in the world. Like I said, this odds and ends, I'm a little all over the board. I'm just going to jump in and start on some of these. I watched an interesting video today, a guy I started following on Twitter, and his whole thing is about water testing. I guess I'm still trying to find out what his history is, but it sounds like he went through some sort of these water quality issues that affected his health, and he became really interested in it and got very involved. But I watched something that made total sense to me. I've been watching this testing of the water in East Palestine, and you watch them go right to the edge, dip something right off the surface and test it and say everything's fine. This guy has a totally different approach. He has this foam. It's called open cell foam. Still doing some research on this, but I guess the clean water can flow right through this, but it attracts toxins and heavy metals. They're long strips of foam all tied in bundles, and then he takes a bundle and kind of puts it on fishing line or rope the way you would with, bobbers and weights. And he'll have 3 different bunches of this foam, one near the surface, one deeper down, one still further down. And he throws it out into the middle of the river, and it stays in there sometimes for 24 hours or more. And then he pulls it out, starts cutting some of these strips off, sticks it in a jar, throws it back out there again, and then tracks each day what is going on in the testing. Isn't that the way we should be testing all of this water? As soon as I saw that, I thought, that just makes so much sense. And is this the way they get away with just saying, oh, no, look, see, we did a test, everything's fine. But if you think about it, that water, it's not all exactly the same. Some of those metals will sink deeper down. Some will show up, and then maybe you get some clear running. And so maybe we need to look at the way they're testing things. Calls are starting to come in. I'm going to get to them in just a second here. Here's something else I want to cover. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I may spend some more time on a recording. This idea of going back to 2020, and as soon as you tried to question any of their narratives, you were called a conspiracy theorist. You were likely, if you had any kind of a following at all, you were likely to be banned or censored on social media. Certainly made it more likely that you might get canceled. And yet, let's look at how many of these things keep coming true. And they're proven now, really proven. Masks don't work. Come on. There's so much evidence now. And look, I don't care if they do work. We should have never been forced to put them on. We should have never put them on children who weren't even getting sick from this. But if you said that, you were canceled, you were censored, you were criticized, you were called a tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorist. Of course masks work. Well, no, they really don't. And a lot of people said that right from the beginning. How many others of these can we go through? Remember when the vax was 90+% effective at spreading? And we said, oh, that's not true. And they said, of course it is. You're a conspiracy nut. Well, after a while, they had to admit it does absolutely nothing to stop the spread. And then they pivoted and said, oh, well, it'll keep you from getting very sick, until vaccinated people started showing up in the emergency room. And they said, well, of course, there's more of them showing up because more people are vaccinated. I get that, but you told us it would protect us from this. And then vaccinated people started dying at a higher rate than unvaccinated people did. And they said, well, of course more vaccinated people are dying because more people are vaccinated. How ignorant. But the vaccine was supposed to stop all of that, and it didn't. And we now know that. How many other things? When we started talking about vaccine injuries, oh no, that's not happening. Even though the VAERS database proved without a doubt it was happening, then they said, well, the VAERS database is garbage. Well, then why has the CDC been wasting all of our money for decades on this program that is now garbage? Nobody wants to address that. Now we hear over the weekend, why did they release this on Sunday? This is big news. The Department of Energy, the federal government, now says, yeah, it's likely that the Wuhan virus escaped from a lab. They quietly say it on a Sunday. We've been saying that from the very beginning, that it should at least be investigated. And it hasn't. And it looks like that's absolutely going to turn out to be true again. How many of these things are we going to have to be right about? I don't even want to be right about this stuff. I don't want to have to say I told you so. But how can you keep ignoring this? Here's another big one. And this one, boy, you can really get attacked if you try to talk about this one. You've seen the latest with Fetterman, the Pennsylvania senator, when the election was going on in the campaign, and this guy couldn't even communicate without a device. He thinks he hears voices that sound like the teacher on the Peanuts cartoon. Wah, 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 wah. That's what he hears when people talk. And we said, look, we're not criticizing the guy for his health. He had a stroke during the campaign. He can't speak. He can't function. Maybe this isn't a good idea for two reasons. One, he's not competent to be a senator. Two, this isn't good for his health. But we were told to shut up. Stop discriminating against unhealthy people. Then he ends up in the hospital with who knows what the first time. Within a week, he's back in the hospital again, and they say they admitted him long-term for severe depression, and nobody questions it. You can't talk about his health. Now the rumor is, and it of course right now it's a conspiracy theory. We'll see if it comes true. I'll give you some anecdotal evidence. I follow John Fetterman and his wife on Twitter. He was pretty active tweeting up until he went in the hospital. If he's truly in there for depression, I think you might hear from him once in a while or hear from somebody about what's going on. Now the theory is he's brain dead. Nobody's heard from him, and they're hiding it because it would require a special election, and I guess there's some date that if they can get him passed, that won't happen. So I'm sure if you try to talk about that, you'll be called a conspiracy theorist, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. All of the anytime you try to say, no, look, they're testing everything in East Palestine and everything's fine. If you try to push back against that, again, shut up, sit down. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a conspiracy nut. It's just kind of crazy. Where's this all going? I don't know. There's so much going on. They're really, and look, I'm not saying any of these things are absolutely true. All we've been asking is if they're not true, then just prove it. It's so easy. If we as citizens, taxpayers, especially people of Pennsylvania who are being represented by this guy, he is a public servant. Have they forgot that? He answers to us. The government is supposed to answer to us, not the other way around. This is the biggest problem we have in our country right now. Talk about all the issues going on. It all centers on one thing. The government has gotten to the point where they believe we answer to them. That's not how our government works. They are public servants. They answer to us, and we need to start pushing back on that and enforcing it. And not just a handful of people. Everybody has to. All they would have to do, I mean, if this guy is alive and awake and not brain dead, just show us a short video. We're not trying to stress the guy out. 30 seconds. Hey, I'm John Fetterman here. Now, unfortunately, with today's technology, they could actually fake that. Which is really kind of making me a little crazy that we can't really believe anything we see with our own eyes anymore. Not unless we see it with our own eyes in real life. And how can we go do that? They can deep fake these videos now that look so real. It's really kind of scary. And now we throw in AI. Holy cow. All right, I should probably get to some phone calls before I go too deep down some of these rabbit holes. But I do really think we have got to start talking a lot more about this. How many things can they be wrong about? Not only were they wrong, they punished people for questioning it. Just for questioning, you were punished and continue to be. This has got to stop, really does. And it's not going to stop until enough of us, all of us, start pushing back. And I don't see enough people doing it at all. I don't care if you don't have a lot of influence. You have influence. You have some. Start using it. Stop being afraid to speak up. That's the only way this is ever going to change. All right, I'm going to get to the phone calls. It's all up to you what we talk about today. I can go back to this stuff and talk all day long, but I'd rather find out what's on your mind and answer some of your questions, or find out what you want to talk about, what's important to you right now. Pick up the phone, 855-950-3835. We're going to get started in
Kevin on the air.
Nevada. Ron, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. I just got done talking to the screener. I'll keep this a lot shorter, but there's a guy here in Nevada, Wayne Allen Root. You may have heard of him. He's pretty popular national broadcaster. Have you ever heard of him? You know who I'm talking about?
I've heard the name, but I haven't ever listened to any of his stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, you might have heard the name. At one time when Mitt Romney was running for president, he was the Libertarian vice presidential candidate.
Maybe that.
And that's how he got started in politics.
I'm sure that's where I remember his name from then, yeah.
Okay. He does 3 hours a day broadcasting. He's on the USA Radio Network, and he would love your story, Kevin, about how you started on XM and then you were on Sirius. And I heard you tell a brief version of it, and then how you got canceled and how you're back on the next Monday, right? Anyway, he would love to hear that story, and he would love to hear, your opinion about vaccinations and all that, and why you got kicked off, because he does that every day. I mean, he's the most. Well, he wrote a book called The Power of Relentless, and that's the way he is about the vaccine. Every day he's on there about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go look up that book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a good one. It's he's written like 16 books, I think he said. And but what I want you to know is the easy way to do it is you could contact him and tell him your story and see what he thinks. You'd have because you have the potential to be a regular, because he likes to talk about business and all that, and the trucking business is a biggie, especially in the coming days. Oh, I got to tell you, I got the book, The End of the World is Just the Beginning.
Crazy, isn't it?
You recommended that one, right?
Yeah.
I just started it yesterday. I just got it yesterday. So I just started it. Yeah, I can't wait to read it.
Here's the thing. I read the book. I don't even remember why. I saw somebody recommend it, didn't know anything about the author. After I finished the book, I went back and researched the author. I disagree with almost every one of his political ideas. We're nowhere in alignment on political ideas, but it was a hell of a book.
Yeah, I know, because it comes to the point where political ideas collide with reality. You know?
Hey, Ron, before I forget, we get off track. Thank you for this recommendation. One of the things we've been talking about here is whether it makes sense for me to start going on other podcasts and shows as a guest. I really haven't done a lot of that. Just because we do that here. We have guests. We're busy. It's, do I need one more project? But we're really starting to consider it. I may, we're talking to the Stu Peters show. We may do something with that. This sounds like a good one. I may just start doing more of this. So I'll let people know if you know of shows or podcasts that may make sense for us, forward them to us. I may start doing more of this.
Yeah. Well, Wayne likes to hear those stories, and then he also he would let you plug everything you do. And especially the trucking stuff, he does how the health stuff is. Okay. He's a healthy guy. He preaches health and all that. Everybody's got kind of a different approach to it. But, I've been listening to you. You got the best approach to health, totally simple. And I'm going to be there at the Rogue Food Conference and over there at Polyface Farms.
Oh, good. That'll be awesome. Speaking of that, when is that?
May 12th and 13th.
No, I won't. There's no way I can travel. I can't travel that far that time of the year. We love being here in the summer. This is the garden. I'll be, we're taking our last trip this week. So we've got a trip. I'll leave on Friday. Probably be on the road for a week or two. We were actually going to stay out longer, take a vacation on the road, still do the show and that. But I decided the show is in Southern California. We were thinking about maybe, doing something there, but the weather kind of sucks down there right now anyway, and it's not my favorite part of the country. So I think we're just going to go down, hit the show, make it back here, and then probably do kind of a mini vacation around here somewhere, maybe go over and spend a week or two on the coast. We'll still be doing the show. May take a break from a lot of the other stuff, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, here's the thing. If I travel now, and I know people may think this is kind of crazy, I've been flying most of my life. I mean, the first time I flew was when I joined the military. It's the first time I was ever on a plane. There was over a year where I flew almost every week of the year. Almost. It was pretty darn close. I did that for about a year and a half. A lot of flight miles. I used to kind of enjoy traveling on plane. It gave me time to read or work with no interruptions. I really didn't mind it at all. I'll tell you what, I don't want to get on a commercial plane anymore. If you've been watching the aviation news, it is horrendous. This isn't being talked about much. We have pilots who are so undertrained. It's horrible. We have a shortage of pilots. They have changed the physical requirements. They now allow heart issues, and we know that's a problem. We have pilots dying in the plane. We have planes running into each other on the runway pretty regularly now. I'm not flying anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done. I just decided I'm not flying now.
I'm the same way. I'm here in Vegas, and I'm going to go to Polyface Farms, but I'm just going to rent a car and drive there and drive back.
Yeah,
It's the best way.
Yeah, I'm either taking the coach if we go, or I'll take a train. Well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't even take a train now that we know we have 1,000 derailments a year. What the hell am I thinking?
It's starting to look. Remember when we used to say that it's starting to get like Atlas Shrugged?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Yeah,
crazy.
Hey,
so,
I can't wait. I'm definitely going to be there at Polyface. I was hoping you'd be there too, but I'm going to be there.
Here's what
it's going to be good.
We kind of planned for this year, and then we just got jammed up with a bunch of stuff going on, and we didn't plan enough in advance. But going forward, we're probably going to take off out of here during the winter. Maybe right after the holidays. And if we were to take off in January, I don't really need to be back here till like right now, about the beginning of March. So we may start planning our years where we hit the road for a couple months in the wintertime and go do all this stuff. Go hit some of these conferences, go visit some of our partners, go research new partners. We used to do a lot more of that. I want to get back to that. So that may be how we figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm looking for a sponsor too for my project, Chinatown Band. Okay, it's about God and music.
Okay,
and nothing else.
That's interesting.
Okay, it's totally focused on God and music, and when I say music, live music.
Got it.
And I'm going to see where it goes. It's an idea for the new future that's coming. Yeah, it's going to be live music because people love live music. They just don't know it.
There's something really powerful about live music. I agree with that.
Yeah. So that's what my thing's going to be about. But anyway, it's going to be at Polyface Farm. That's what I'm going there. That's what I'm going there for. Warming up right now.
Excellent. All right. Well, you can be our official reporter for the event.
Okay, I'll do that.
There you go.
I'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Good.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
Good talking to you.
All right. Thanks, Ron.
Okay.
I'm going to go look up that book. Phone lines are open. I'm surprised they're quiet. Usually once we go to the calls, they start lighting up. So if you want to jump in, lines are wide open, 855-950-3835. It is a free-for-all today. Anything goes. Anything at all you want to talk about, a question, a comment, a topic, jump in and join us. Here's one. There have been an awful lot of people in the last couple of years that have kind of come to notoriety of some sort, people we may not have heard of otherwise. And it was kind of hard to keep up with them all. Like, he talked about this guy was one of the libertarian candidates, and I knew I had heard the name. I didn't know he did a radio show or wrote a bunch of books, so I'd like to go follow him. There was another name I kept seeing and wasn't really paying attention to who he was or what he did. And I was going through, I'm doing the Wim Hof training to become a certified Wim Hof trainer. The problem now is that in order to finish it, I have to go to a live event somewhere for the final part of the training. I really wanted to go to the Netherlands and do it. I've actually got a friend here in town. He started doing a bunch of work for us. He's a master carpenter. Now he's become a friend. He's keeping me supplied in duck eggs, and he's from the Netherlands. And we actually talked about, taking a trip, going over there, except I'm not flying. I'm just not doing it. Call me what you want. I don't care. I've looked at the evidence. Doesn't make sense to me anymore. It's not that I'm afraid of flying. Like I said, I flew every week for over a year. Just not doing it anymore. Just doesn't make sense to me when you see how bad the standards have slipped in that industry. I'm just not going to do it. So I don't know if I'll finish the certification. Occasionally they run some live programs here in the U.S., and if I can do that, I will probably do that. So I started following this guy because, I was curious about him. Like I said, I kept seeing his name, didn't really understand what he was doing. Well, it turns out he really wrote what turned out to be a really popular book. In fact, I'm going to go get the title of it. Now, I haven't read it, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to. The reason being, the book was a huge bestseller, I believe, too. It was called 12 Rules for Life. Let me go. I want to get some stats here that I wrote down on this. It was a #1 international bestseller. He's got 65,000 ratings on Amazon for this, and he has a solid 5 stars. And I thought, how did I miss this book? 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. And I thought, God, I don't know how I missed this. That's the kind of stuff I usually read. So I thought, oh, I'll listen to the podcast and then I'll go get the book. And Wim Hof was interviewing him in a podcast. It was a 2-part. I could not be less impressed with a human being than what I heard from this guy. He's Canadian, I believe. I'm not picking on the Canadians. I like them a lot. I don't get it. I don't understand what I'm missing here. So let me just tell you, I haven't read the book yet. I may or may not, just because I have so many books to read. I listened to the interview. Here's what I heard. Here's what I heard in the interview. This was the core of the whole thing. 2 parts, listen to it all. First off, and again, I don't know anything about the guy at this point. I don't even know that he's written this book. I mean, I kept saying I want to go figure out who this guy is, and then I saw the interview with Wim, and I thought, well, I'll listen to that. It's a good place to start. So what I hear is that he's a psychologist, I think. So he's there helping people supposedly with things like depression and, mental illness and things like that. I find out that he's been on antidepressives for a couple of decades. He went also on anti-anxiety medication, and it wasn't SSRIs. It was benzodiazepines like Xanax. He was on those for extended periods, years, and the withdrawal trying to get off of benzos, I've heard that it can be worse than opioids. He claims that the withdrawals from the benzodiazepine, Xanax, were so horrendous they did massive nerve damage to his body. Now, I'm not sure that that's even medically correct. I know they can do lots of damage. I've never heard of this type of nerve damage that he was describing. He might be right. I don't know. But he claimed that it was so bad that just recently he was down to 5% function in life, like couldn't get out of bed, bedridden. And then he starts talking about, now Wim is trying to work with him on this with breathing and cold exposure and all the things Wim Hof does. These two met in person at a conference. So now he has the opportunity to be personally trained by Wim Hof. And Wim starts saying, so Jordan, how is the breathing going? Here was his response. Oh, I found out that I have obstructive sleep apnea, and now I have a breathing machine, and it's amazing. It's got me to 50% function now, and I'm fighting back from that. And Wim says, well, are you doing the breathing and the cold exposure? And he said, well, after we left together, I did it for a couple weeks, and then I quit, and now I'm doing it again. And Wim says, well, are you feeling better? And he says, well, my breathing machine really he would never really admit that he was benefiting at all from what Wim was doing. He wanted to talk about his breathing machine. The longer this went on, the more I thought, this guy's a freaking train wreck. Who the hell wants to read 12 Rules for Life from this guy? All I heard, honestly, was he's sick, he's a victim. I don't get it. I really don't. If anybody has read the book, or if anybody knows more about this, I'm not sure that I want to even go do any more digging. I'm just not impressed at all. I'm just kind of baffled. So if anybody knows anything about this guy, call me. Tell me what I might be missing here. 65,000 ratings and to have a full 5 stars? That's impressive. Really impressive. One of the things that I do when I go look at book reviews, if this book has a 5-star rating with 65,000 total ratings, I'm not reading the 5 stars. I'm not reading the 4 stars. I'm not reading the 3 stars. I will read the 1 and 2-star ratings. And honestly, by reading those, they all kind of agreed with what I just said. Like, this guy wrote a bunch of crap that sounds really good, I guess, to people, but in reality, it sounds like a load of shit, really. I'm wide open to hearing how I might be wrong on this, because I'm wondering how I could be so wrong. But I just don't get it. So I'd love to hear from somebody, maybe some of my Canadian friends up north. If you know more about this guy, let me know. What am I missing here? Let's get to some calls. They're starting to come in. we'll head off to Texas. Fred, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Well, I actually do know quite a bit about Jordan Peterson.
What am I missing?
I did read that book, and I read the adjacent book. Okay, so you're right. It is for guys that are our age. It's not really a book, and he's not really a guy for us. He really resonates with the young men and giving them a firm direction that other people are not. So
stop there a second,
because
that helps.
Yep.
But I want to kind of walk through this as I'm thinking about it. That I get that each generation is different. Different things are important to them. I get all that, but how can you write a book to tell somebody how to live when your whole life looks like a train wreck?
Well, he really got notoriety, really with the pushback of language. He was a Toronto professor of psychology. He had a private practice of psychology, and he did help people. But, people in today, and that's how he got notoriety. He wrote this book because he saw that the young men in this generation don't have direction. They are being targeted. Toxic masculinity and all that other stuff. So he wrote this book, I think, specifically for them.
So let me question that again.
He actually changed a lot of the things you were saying. Now, I don't know how he is now. I watched some videos here and there, but I don't really follow him like I used to. I bought the book to read, actually to try to help my son through some issues, and it's sitting on my desk for him to actually pick up whenever he wants. But his daughter had some kind of debilitating muscle disorder, I believe, and she fixed herself with a carnivore ketoish diet. And he actually fixed a lot of his anxiety that way because he demanded him to do this. So I don't know when he did this interview with Wim.
Just recently. That's what I don't get.
Okay.
It's just recently.
If
this guy wrote books like you shouldn't listen to this or get sucked into this, he got sucked into his own profession. He's a psychologist and he's on antidepressives and anti-anxiety to the point that they destroyed his health.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I don't follow him. He's not one of the guys I followed. I kind of
unless it was a deep fake. I heard him claim all these things in his own voice.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know. I don't really follow him as much as I used to. But
and
you know that
you should hear him talk about his magical breathing machine for sleep apnea.
Yeah. Because the last I followed him was probably a little over a year ago, and that's when.
Do you have the Wim Hof app?
Going through his. I do.
It's on there.
I do.
It's on there. He's got a podcast he does with his son. There's only about 10 episodes, so I think it's pretty recent. I didn't look at the dates. Maybe I should. Maybe I'm assuming it was recent, but it sounded like it, based on current events and what they were saying. And I think Wim Hof's podcast is new, and these 2 episodes are I think they're the newest of his stuff. I guess I should have checked the date to be sure. So if somebody wants to check the date and let me know, but anybody who has the Wim Hof app, you can go in the app, find the podcast and listen to it. It's right there, 2 parts. And he's actually
I'm going to look at
he's actually in the Netherlands with Wim at his home.
Okay. Cause I mean, he's a very skilled debater on the social issues, the misuse of language and the forcefulness of the left coming at us for everyone, even including their own. So I mean, I do think he has some good things to bring to the table. I don't know about this last. I don't know what he's been doing in the past 6-8 months. Maybe I really haven't. A lot of the stuff I see when I'm Googling YouTube or whatever is kind of older stuff. So
here's again kind of my take as I scrolled through the 12 rules and the things he believes in and some of the stuff I saw him post. I don't disagree with him. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I think a lot of this is actually good information. There's a lot of stuff I agree with. What I'm wondering is how do you write a book this good and your whole life's a train wreck? Do you not take your own advice?
Yeah, no, I agree, and he had a lot of issues. He had a lot of issues personal struggles that I know he's even put out there, but I thought he fixed a lot of that with his diet. Believe it or not, like I just finished Brain Energy, which was an unbelievable book.
So here's something else. I think during the interview they might have touched a little bit on diet. I would not take diet advice from Wim Hof. Right? That's not his specialty. He claims that he's a vegan or vegetarian. He only eats about once a day. Food is not an issue for him. He has so much other personal discipline that he can probably get away with that kind of a diet and still be relatively healthy because of all the other stuff that he's so strong. You know, he's been doing this stuff for decades. But I wouldn't take nutritional advice from him.
I lose you?
No, you're there. Go ahead.
Okay. No. You said you wouldn't take nutritional advice from, but I lost that last second.
Yeah. No, that's all I said. Then I stopped kind of abrupt there, but a couple of calls dropped off.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
was distracted. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I can follow people and take advice from people that I don't agree with on a lot of things. If I don't have to agree with everybody to know they're really good at this and I can take their advice. But I have a hard time taking advice from anybody whose life seems to be a total disaster, you know, around their mental health. And that's what he does. That just seems bizarre to me.
Yeah. I don't think he's clinically practicing anymore. Not that really makes a difference in the conversation we're having, but, you know, like I said, I believe it's a great book for any young male adult. I think from adolescence to maybe early 20s, I think they can get a lot of things that they're lacking today. And we've had certain conversations over the last, couple of years about how they're demonized and how they're, I feel that we should be raising up all of our youths, women and men, together. Rising them up and trying to make them prosper and assimilate to life.
Absolutely.
And right now, everything is geared towards women, which I'm okay with gearing things towards women, but we have to help the population. Men and women need each other to survive and sustain the culture and sustain life and to keep this earth spinning around, So, weak men don't help our situation.
No, not at all. If you start to look at the big picture and you try to put it all together, what were the lockdowns, the vaccines, the masks all about? Are they about control? If they're about control, then you have to figure out how to eliminate the alpha males.
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, you won't be able to control the population. Now, it's actually kind of interesting to see. Again, Twitter has really opened my eyes about a lot of things. I'm really glad Elon spent a couple bucks to buy the place. What I'm actually seeing are a ton more alpha females, which is fine. I don't care. Anybody step up and lead.
Yeah. But I think that's happening because men are just afraid.
Yeah.
They're defeated and afraid.
Yeah.
I see it in my own son. And, I wish he was more alpha male-ish, but he's definitely, recessed about a few things. He's been getting a little more confident in himself. He's doing excellent at his job. But,
Good.
I at a small microcosm, I could see it in him and his friends. It's really insane. How this is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but
maybe I'll get it on audio, and on this trip, I'll see if I have some time to, listen to some of it. I've got some other audio books I wanted to read on this trip, but I'm curious now.
Yeah, I got it. Like I said, I got it to give me a little more education and ammunition in trying to help him assimilate to being an adult, and I thought it was very informative. Like I said, like you said, there's really not much I disagree with in the book. And I got the second one. It really didn't really didn't expand as much as I thought it might. He has 2 books, 12 more 12 more rules. It was good. It was okay. I mean, again, for me, it didn't really help me because I kind of know everything he's preaching and writing about and subscribe to most of it. But it's definitely a good tool to help the younger generation, I believe.
Well, all right. Appreciate the feedback. I'm still a little confused.
Yeah. But one of the reasons I called was my numbers. Now I've been working out hard. I've been doing a lot of yard work, not yard work like you do with the gardening. I'm not doing anything like that, but getting the yard ready for, Texas. The winter's over. We had the
Spring.
3 weeks of winter.
Right.
Now it's over.
That's right.
So I've been doing a lot of stuff around the house and stuff like that, and also working out and breathing and I still can't get my body battery back over 40. Maybe a little bit over 40, but not much over 40. Now I haven't done anything as far as I think my carb intake might be a little too much, but I don't know if that would do anything for my getting my body battery back.
Now, really won't.
Right.
The body battery to me is kind of interesting. I'm not sure how. I'm still not really clear on how useful that is. If it's as useful as I thought it was at one time, because when I really work hard, I can get mine to 100, but I have to do a lot. I have to work out at the right times and then rest at the right times and, really work to get a solid night's sleep, which I'm back to improving my sleep. It's gotten significantly better now that I stopped biohacking some of that other stuff and I'm focusing on it again. And yet my body battery hasn't been over 75, and I don't even get to 75 all that often in probably 2 months. Most days it's around 40 or 50 when I wake up. And yet that my sleep has improved a little bit, I am more consistent with my stress protocol. I've been on that again more consistently. Taking the adaptogens. I feel fantastic. The muscle pain I was talking about went away. I cut out a little more sugar that was kind of creeping back in, and because I was kind of doing the carnivore with fruit and honey, and I think I got a little too much, and I was getting some muscle soreness. That's all gone. I feel fantastic again. And I'm not getting tons of sleep, 5.5 or 6 hours a night, but it's better than it's been in a long time. And I feel really good, but I can't get my body battery back to 100 unless I spend about 2 or 3 days focusing on it. And then honestly, when I get there, I don't feel that much better. Right. Well, I don't feel overly tired, that's for sure. I mean, I have enough energy to do everything I need to do throughout the day. I mean, I had some things I could have done today with the truck, but I purposely took off to do my protocol to get 3 days in a row in. Good.
So I wanted to get that out of the way. This way, tomorrow, I have tomorrow off as well, so I had both days to play with.
Let me go back a second. What's happening again with my sleep, which has been a pretty clear pattern every time I go back and forth on all this stuff. My sleep is getting better and it's getting shorter. So it's a much shorter window. So I'm getting about the same amount of sleep in a much shorter window. Before, I'd have to be in bed for 8 hours to get 5 hours of reasonably good sleep. Now I'm in bed 6 hours and getting 5 hours of really good sleep, good deep sleep, good REM. But it gets shorter because my energy levels start shooting up when I do this. Last night, about 10 o'clock at night, I was thinking about going out and shoveling the driveway because it started snowing again last night. And I had the energy. And the last thing I wanted to do is lay down and go to bed. Right.
Yeah, I mean, over the weekend, I had one solid 8.5 hours of sleep, and I think I got maybe to the mid-40s on the body battery. But, I've noticed my stress has been a little higher again overnight, and I really can't figure out why. I did eat terrible on Saturday. She got some stuff around the corner, and I said, pick me up something. I should have just ate what I planned on eating, And it really kind of, I don't know if their oil was just older, but it just kind of, it didn't do justice for me. It was Mexican food. It was not even Mexican food. It was a burrito place.
Oh, yeah.
I got some, yeah. I mean, so I think their oils were bad, or going bad.
No, I can promise you their oils are bad. They always are. When they're brand new, they're bad.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't mean it like that. I meant older. I know what I'm in for when I go to these places. I know they don't use any quality oil. I'm just saying, as far as, I think that, I notice now these places, because of inflation, they're cutting back on their product, and they're stretching everything else, and it's going to be devastating. And that's another thing I wanted to touch base on. Up until about a month ago, I felt that, I was kind of in the camp that I think the second half of the year we were going to start at least seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. I'm no longer in that. And I just wanted to put it out there. I think everyone should be very careful on their spending right now. And you've been saying this for a while, and I have been, but I really feel that we're going to have, I think, until the middle of next year before we see any kind of changes in a positive direction. I'm not an economist, but no, I do play one on TV sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then you throw in all the unknowns. What the hell's going on with Russia and Ukraine? What the hell's going on with China? What's going on with spy balloons? What's going on with train crashes and pollution and chemical disasters and the southern border? And my God, I could go on. And with all that happening, how could anybody accurately predict anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, that there's a big thing there. I just feel that if this divided government doesn't work like we hope it does, and stop this fiscal spending, get a little more fiscal responsibility and shut some of the spending down, I think we're maybe in for the 8 years of Obama, where we had a lot of roller coaster,
or worse,
where we'll start growing, I think, in a little over a year, but I think we'll have a roller coaster of an economy.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Let's think about all those things I just talked about, all the problems that, are going wrong, crime. We could keep listing them, and they're unknowns. Yeah. So it makes it hard to predict. Any one of those things could flare up or explode and really become a problem. The only one of them that would actually be good for our economy is the one I absolutely don't want to see, and that's us going to war somewhere.
Well, yeah. And this is definitely, I think this is just being pushed by the military-industrial complex, and everybody else is getting paid by them. This has been something that they've been trying to do, I think, since the middle of Obama's term, when they threw out the duly elected president of Ukraine and put this guy in.
Yeah. The problem is most people don't know the history of Ukraine. Most people don't know the history of Zelensky. And all they know is what they saw at the very beginning. Here's what I'm wondering. Yes. Do you remember at the very beginning, every time we saw him, he was in combat gear hiding somewhere because they were trying to assassinate him? Why did that go away? Why does he just wander around the streets now whenever he feels like it?
Kevin, it's hard to be that tinfoil hat guy, but I don't know. I think there's a lot more background stuff going on here. I watched a lieutenant colonel over the weekend who was talking about how they've been provoking Russia, and Russia came into Ukraine to help the Russian-speaking eastern part of Ukraine. And that's how this whole thing started with the Donbass region. Now, I don't know anything about Ukraine. I never even saw it on the map. I'm just, these are guys who live, breathe, and eat military. And he was given a history lesson in the 3 or 4 minutes he was on the show. And, it makes you wonder, maybe there's other forces here just so they can, and then you hear how Ukrainian oligarchs had billions of dollars tied up in the SPF, Sam Bankman, the FTX scandal.
Right.
You know, I mean, you hear all of this, these different from different outlets, and you have to sit back and say, really, how corrupt are these people?
Yeah. So here, let's jump over to another topic. I'm kind of sick about the fact that we're already talking about presidential elections again. It's like we never, ever stop talking about elections anymore. But if they're going to talk about it, I at least want to find something interesting. I don't know if you've seen any of this or not yet, but do you want to take a guess who I think the most interesting person who has announced a run for president so far is?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Isn't that a cool name for a superhero?
I posted something on the Tribe, a half an hour speech he gave at Hillsdale College. This guy is sharp as nails.
I love this guy.
Yeah. You know, he started a fund, a hedge fund, to push back on guys like BlackRock,
right?
Larry Fink,
right?
And you know, I think he's doing excellent with it. I mean, it's really blown up. It's called Strive. It's not expensive to buy a few shares if people want to do that. But you know, he wants to be a what they call a hostile investor for the benefit of the shareholders, not for the ESG
and the equity and all the other crap that these investment funds have started to get into. Yeah.
Exxon and Chevron should do what they're meant to do, is drill and find energy, fossil fuel energy, you know, and that's what he's trying to do. And now this whole thing, his message right now, I think is a great message. Will it get any traction? Because you have the two-party system and the bureaucratic and everyone that's in the tank here. Kind of what happened when Trump got elected. He had no power because everyone kind of undermined him. So, you know, I love the part where he wants to kind of cut the head off the snake and gut all of these departments of all the people that are useless, like the Faucis and stuff like that.
I loved his post today, and I don't know when he did it. I just happened to see it today, about eliminating a bunch of alphabet soup in the government. I've been saying that for years.
Yep.
We do not need a federal Department of Education. That's the first one to go. The EPA is a disaster. Yep. It should be disbanded, and we should start over. I'm okay with having a federal agency that oversees that kind of stuff. But the EPA is a train wreck in itself. It's got to go. And that's one of his top priorities, is eliminating these government agencies that they now use to control us. We don't get to vote for those people. They should not have this kind of power.
Well, that's his biggest
it should be. That's why I like this guy.
It's like I want the people that we elect to run the government, not the bureaucrats.
Correct. And that's what's got to go. I don't even know that I heard Trump say that much.
No. I do. I have read something. I don't know where it is. If I could find it, I'll definitely forward it to you. Well, I saw an interview with General Mike Flynn, who was lambasted and kind of they just sued him and investigated him, and they broke the guy. His plan, from what he says, and I don't think he's a liar. Guy's been around the military, intel, and the private intel sector for 30 some odd years. He had a plan with Donald Trump to take the whole intelligence apparatus back to pre-World War II levels.
That's another good move,
and that's why I believe he was crushed.
I'm gonna make a prediction. For the most part, Vivek has been flying under the radar, kind of. A lot of people don't know who he is. They haven't heard of him. That's changed now, obviously. He announced he is running for president. I actually found that a little shocking, but I love the fact that he is. Here's my prediction. we are going to find out that he's probably, well, it won't be true, but we're probably going to find out something like he's a child molester. He's got some, huge corruption scandal in his back. They're going to come after him. I think he's too impressive for them not to go after him.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely put a target on his back when he announced the other night.
Yeah, which is what we all have to be willing to do in our own little way. I don't mean we, all have to go run for president. We all have to be willing to stand up and say, I've got a target on my head, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. We have to fight back over this.
Well,
hey, I'm gonna switch gears real quick. Don't you pull a tanker?
Yeah.
Or did you at one time?
Yes, they do.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Are you familiar with hazmat in tankers? Much of it, rates and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I've been doing hazmat since 1989, on and off. Yep.
So I posted today. There's a report that we have 25% too much capacity in the over-the-road market right now, which I'm trying to warn people.
Okay.
That's big. If there's 25% too much capacity, we're going to see a huge shakeout coming. So I ask people, owner-operators, how are you doing? Do you think you're going to survive this if things changed a lot? Here's one of the first replies I got. My question was, are you going to survive? This owner-operator says, I don't see how. Linden Bulk is advertising $2.74 a loaded mile right now for hazmat, but actually only pays $1.37 a mile. I'm losing my butt since starting there a month ago. Is that for real?
Well, I don't think so, because I know a lot of the bigger carriers. I'm actually friends with a couple of owners and prior owners. And I know that at one company who has 300 of their own power units, about 2,000 trailers, and they have a multitude of owner-operator leased operators onto them. They're company guys. Are making $1 a mile. Their company guys are making $1 a mile. Their owner-operators with the fuel surcharge are averaging about $2.40 a running mile.
Okay,
and that's a leased operator. They take care of all the expenses. The only thing the guys have to do is their maintenance, their fuel, and their tags.
Well,
they cover the IFTA. They cover all the insurances. Oh yeah, and if you go with the bobtail insurance through them, it's only about $75 a month. I was there. I know their whole setup.
Well, and I don't mean to just criticize people over this kind of stuff, but there's something else that's telling here for me. It's his final sentence: losing my butt since starting there a month ago, and he doesn't think he can even stay in business. Look, you have to be, and it's not like he hasn't worked in a month. He's working.
Yeah.
And if your business can go south that fast in a month, then why are you still there then? Well, that's the thing. People want to cry and blame everybody around them. I know. Here's another reply that I don't even understand. Was doing great. This is a whole different person, by the way. Was doing great and set up for the downturn, but not having a working CPC for 4 months put me into a company truck. What is a working CPC? I'm racking my brain. I can't figure out what the hell that is. No idea. Maybe it's the computer in the truck? I don't know. I've never heard those letters. Maybe he meant CPU. The U is nowhere near the C on the keyboard, so it wasn't a keyboard. No, I know. Right? I know. I don't understand. I don't understand that either. Yeah. Now being on the other side, because I'm running my own authority and I'm in the tank world, I have talked to brokers, had a nice conversation actually Saturday morning. This young kid in a fairly good sized broker, he's always emailing me. He actually had a nice conversation with him Saturday morning of all places, and he said that there are some of these bigger companies coming into these skippers and giving them deals, like $4 to $5 a running mile, I guess, but they have fuel surcharges and everything else involved in that, which brings you down to $2 a round trip because a lot of tank work is that's what I'm wondering, right? It's 50-50 a lot of times, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I
I have it on both ends of the spectrum. When people call me for quotes, I give them quotes, and they're like, "Oh, we're looking for this," and I'm like, "Man, I see flatbed work on the board for that." I'm saying to myself, I
Right.
don't go back at these people because listen, it's what the shippers. It's a shippers market. I am grateful for the little niche that I've kind of found here. That's why I have a lot more time on my hands, because there's a lot of work out there I just don't want to try to do or get involved in. And sometimes it's logistics for me because I have certain loads already for next month already on the books. I can't take a load that comes up that takes me past that, past that date. So sometimes being a one truck guy, it hurts me because I'm trying to build this little niche I found and trying to build it into something a little more, because there is more work there I'm trying to get a handle on. So I'm sacrificing on one hand and I'm losing, I'm gaining on another hand, hopefully. I mean, you can understand.
Yeah,
that, sure.
absolutely.
But I do. But again, then there's other places I put out rates and they're like, "Oh, great. Yeah, come do the work." And I can do it. And so, I don't, we're in such a unique atmosphere right now because of the transitioning between a carrier system to a shipper system. With and I tried to talk to a guy. Said, we don't have to give back everything that we've gained over the last 2.5 years. We have to kind of come back to a reasonable rate to ship stuff with, but we don't have to go back to 2018 rates either.
Yeah,
so I think people are having a hard time with that as well.
Yeah, I think so. Hey, Fred, the calls are starting to pile up. Great stuff. I'll talk to you again real soon. We're going to head off north of the border. Ron, welcome to the program.
Morning.
What's on your mind today?
It's that time of year again. It's that time of year again. I got the email saying my dog is up for his vaccination.
Yeah, I've stopped doing all of that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it
Last
anymore.
year I was told, he needs the Bordetella, it's the kennel cough one, and then a month later he ends up getting kennel cough.
I think back to, I've always had dogs. I grew up with dogs, had a dog the whole time I was growing up. Didn't have a dog for a couple of years while I was in the Army, then actually moved off post, and as soon as I did, I got a dog. I remember clearly our dog, any of the dogs I had growing up, I didn't even know what a vet was. We never took a dog to a vet that I can recall. I don't remember any getting injured. I think then if something drastic would have happened, we would have taken them, but no vet visits, no vaccinations, no nothing, and they were fine. I mean, they lived the normal lifespan for their breed, and they were healthy, and they were just fine.
That's what my dad said about the farm dogs back in the day.
Well, and the farm dogs would have been even better off. Although, honestly, now I just thought about this. I was thinking that, today my dog should be far healthier because I feed him so much better. But honestly, I don't. We never bought dog food. The only thing our dog really ate was meat that we were eating. I mean, we didn't give it junk food or potatoes or, carrots or whatever some people feed their dogs. It got like lunch meat. My mom would cook liver. If we had chicken that night, the dog got chicken. I mean, the dog just ate whatever protein we ate. Now I think about that. That's how dogs should live.
Yeah.
Dogs aren't vegetarians or omnivores. I mean, I even hear vets say dogs are omnivores and cats are true carnivores. And I wonder, where does that come from? Dogs are carnivores, aren't they? Wolves are certainly carnivores, and all dogs are descended from wolves. Why do we think dogs should be eating vegetables?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, they had the one report that said something about if they went grain-free, that would make them sick, like they needed to have this grain or something.
So how did they ever get that in the wild?
Exactly.
You can't eat grains. They have to be processed.
Yeah, I never seen one in the field chew a stalk of wheat.
No, never. No, so they're carnivores. I don't know where this whole idea that dogs are somehow omnivores came around. Now, I will say that occasionally my dog loves to eat berries right off the bush. I don't think that makes him a non-carnivore, though.
Yeah. The one good thing that vets do have, if your dog is sick, they do ask you what you're feeding them, and that's something our traditional human doctors don't do.
That's right. Although, if you then question them further about what the dog should be eating, you might be shocked by their answer.
Yeah, just like in certain crowds, you just don't mention keto or carnivore or paleo. Just not worth the fight.
Hey, somebody! Oh, I've got somebody coming up on the next call that's going to tell us what a CPC is. Wonder why I never heard this term. All right. Anything else on your mind today?
No, I'm good. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ron. Let's move along. Roger's going to tell us. Roger, welcome.
You have heard of the CPC before. They're being stolen from some slightly older Freightliner Central Powertrain Controller.
So I've talked about that issue several times, that this particular part keeps getting stolen because you can't get them anywhere. I don't remember those letters, though. Maybe I just blanked out on it. I've talked about the story 3 or 4 times in the last 2 months.
And I'm driving a basically brand new Freightliner, so it's not the one that they're stealing, but I'm getting messages. So this truck has been back to the dealership for about a week at a time, 4 times over the last 2-3 months.
Now, I will say that if you have a truck down for 4 months over a part, that will put people out of business.
Yeah, I don't know how my boss can do it. I'm just a company driver. He paid $200,000 for these trucks, and this one, is not making him enough money. It's not making him enough money if it was a $100,000 truck.
Unbelievable. I think we're in for some really tough times in the owner-operator world.
And at one point in time, I probably could have done that. I'm just lazy, and my goal in life is to spoil my granddaughters.
There you go. That's awesome. Here's what I would recommend to people if they're in the position to be able to do this. And this is just one of those things that I would do. If I were an owner-operator today, dependent on that income, and I had a newer truck, I would be out buying a $5,000 to $10,000 truck, even if it was an old mechanical truck. And I, park it and start to put a little money into it when I had it and get it road ready. And if I needed to, that's what I'd be pulling freight with.
Yeah, and then if you start making a bunch of money with it, you might sell your new one.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would prefer to go back to late 90s electronic engines before emissions. That's kind of the sweet spot for me. But if those trucks were still too expensive, and most of them are, in my opinion, they're going to come down a lot more, I would consider going older and going back to mechanical for a while.
Sure. My history, not a whole lot of difference, but I worked on cars. Actually started in a professional shop at 12 years old. Worked on cars. Went to college, got my accounting degree back when personal computers were barely a thing. I didn't have one on my desk.
Yeah, right.
And then I got into the fire service. Well, I was a volunteer firefighter, but I got on the paid department and got out of that. Now I've been driving the truck. I was on a department that was more than just a little rope. I was disciplined for saying Merry Christmas.
Oh, well, it sounds like you've had lots of interesting experience. Yes, thank you. Good stuff. Let's continue on. Calls are coming in. We've got some lines open if you want to join us. It's a free-for-all. You can talk about anything you want. One of the other topics I might come back to if anybody's heard of this or interested, there seem to be all kinds of weird topics in the last couple of years that I read a lot. I read a lot of news. I read a lot of current events. I read magazines. I read books. It's what I do almost all day long. I'm surrounded by information all day long. And yet these things pop up out of nowhere, and they're not just an idea. It's like somebody has been working on this stuff extensively, and then all of a sudden it's just there. Things like CRT, critical race theory. Where the hell did that come from? You'd never come across it, and all of a sudden we find out it's in our universities, it's in our schools, it's in our our businesses, our big corporations, this whole equity thing. The first time I heard equity, all I could think of was equity in an asset that I have, equity in my home, equity in my business. I didn't know equity was some social justice term. And as soon as I understood what it meant, I was completely against it. It's not equality. It's the exact opposite. It's pure discrimination. And we could call it reverse discrimination if you want, but where did it come from? How did I miss this? How did they hide this for so long? And I could go through all kinds of these topics. The whole trans movement, where did that come from? But here's another one. 15-minute cities? We already have a mayor in Cleveland saying he wants to have the first 15-minute city in the country. Has anybody seen this? The little bit of research I've done on them so far, let them start all the damn 15-minute cities they want. And anybody that wants to go there and live, knock yourself out. I'm going to go out in the country and create my 15-minute compound. That sounds a whole lot better to me. But where did this whole 15-minute city thing come from? And it seems like it's a totally complete idea, like they've been working on it for about a decade. How do we not know this stuff? It's not like I walk around with my head in the sand, and yet I didn't see any of this stuff coming. Let's go to New Jersey. Kim, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. 15-minute cities it sounds like they're up in Canada too, Winnipeg.
What the hell is that? Where did this come from?
I know that you don't watch many movies, but what they're doing is bringing into our world the Hunger Games. We're only going to be allowed to stay in this region. This is our area.
Oh yeah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. I can promise you that. They will hunt me down and kill me before that happens.
Yeah, well, that's something that they do on the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
The pool, and you get to go hunt the other regional people.
Well, they can come try to find me on my 15-minute compound.
That's it. Hey, on that, yeah, no, it's a whole nother thing. It's not a gun show.
It can be if you want it to be.
Well, no, there's this 12 gauge that I came across at a show over the weekend. It's really not what I called about. A KSG 12. Are you familiar with that?
I've got a KSG.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I don't. So mine's not the 12 though. Mine's. Oh shoot! What is mine?
Well, 12 gauge.
Oh yeah, it's a 12 gauge. It's depending on if you're using 2 3/4 or 3-inch shells, you can get like 17 rounds into this thing. It's got 2 feed chambers, and you flip a switch and you shoot the other side. So you got like 14 rounds maybe of 3-inch and 16 or 17 of 2 3/4. And it's a short
15 altogether, one chambered,
almost pistol like, real short. It's weird the way it's built too. They're able to make it really short without the barrel length
like
being
a Fisher-Price toy.
It does, except it's heavy, really heavy. And I've fired a lot of 12 gauges over the years. This thing will tear you up. It's got one of and I use like 3-inch, goose shot in it. But with those shells, this thing will tear you up. The kick on it is horrendous.
Well, the more that I'm learning, that the way the world is going, the more into weapons that, I've hunted my whole life, Michigan, deer, different birds.
Yeah.
Well, this is personal protection.
Oh.
And I'm looking at this buckshot. It's going to be, one shot is worth what, 9mm shots?
Right.
If you see the people climbing on trucks doing that kind of thing.
Yep.
I don't know. My thought is changing.
I really. Yeah, absolutely. I really like my Judge for kind of home protection. The
410.
445 or 410, right? I can shoot 410 shotgun shells out of a pistol, and they make something for that gun called home defense rounds. And they've got a 4 BBs and then a silver plated disc and then 4 BBs and another disc and more BBs and another disc. And you shoot one of those things at a target and it just destroys the target. They're home defense rounds. So I always thought, man, this is like, the ultimate home defense gun. And I have one in the bedroom, but then I got the KSG. Holy cow. You could tear apart so many people with that thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a brutal home defense weapon, which is exactly what I want.
Exactly. Well, my home is really right here. I only spend usually maybe a day and a half at home at best. So out here, I drive through New York, New Jersey, Chicago.
Yeah. I'm not one for lobbying, or trying to get laws changed, and it's not because I don't think that's important. It is. You got to pick your battles, and that's not the one I want to fight. But if I were ever to fight for any law change in the trucking industry, it would be a legal carry in all states for truck drivers, for CDL holders. You should be able to legal carry anywhere you go.
Well, we have that. It's called the Second Amendment. It was the second one.
Kind of how I feel, yeah. And people over the years have called me and asked me, do you know what the rules are for weapons and the gun and where can we go and what states do we have to do this? And I said, I don't know any of those laws and I don't want to know them because I've already decided whatever those laws are, I'll break them. So why do I need to know them?
Yeah.
Why would I waste my time paying attention to them? I have decided I'll take a gun anywhere I damn well feel like taking a gun, and I'll suffer the consequences if I have to. So I don't really care what the laws are.
Yep. I agree. So my real question is about this new Garmin diesel watch, Instinct 2.
Yeah.
Now, with truck drivers, well, with me anyway, I deliver frozen LTL, like 5-6 pallets here. Then I go to another place, 5-6 pallets.
Yeah, I used to do that. Yep.
I mean, I'm not LTL like, Expo or UPS or any of that.
No,
it's truckload. But
I just mentioned the other day that I at one point had contracted trucks with Aldi in Ohio when they moved into that area. This was way back when. And we used to do frozen LTL. Yeah, we did frozen LTL loads. I'd leave with a truckload and I would have 5 or 6 or sometimes even 10 stores all around Ohio from, Northeast all the way down to Cincinnati. And I would pedal that route. And then I'd usually grab a load of bread out of a bakery in West Virginia and go back.
Okay. So I'm not sure on the perimeters because I don't sleep the same. It wants you to set like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and that's your sleep window. Well, that's not every day is different for me. So when I go to sleep, it'll be like 4 hours. Okay, it registers that everything is great. And then I get to another shipper and I'm not going to be unloaded. So I crawl in the bunk and there's another 2 or 3 hours. Well, it adds them all together. So on my sleep, it shows that I have 20 hours of sleep, 18 hours of sleep. Well, I'm not sleeping that much.
So here's what I will tell you. I love the Garmin watch. Without it, I would have never learned all of the issues around stress. We were wrong about so many things. I've been able to prove it. Now, the one thing I've been saying for quite some time, even though I still track my sleep and I look at it, I don't think we've got this figured out at all. And it's not just Garmin. It's every sleep tracker I have. There have been nights where I've used like 4 or 5 different sleep trackers on the same night. One that's built into my bed, one that's, on the side of my bed. And that's actually the most accurate. I've got this device that sits on the side of your bed. It's pointed at you. It doesn't touch you or anything. It's the most accurate. And they've even tested it against sleep tracking in a sleep lab. And this was the most accurate device. So I've got that one. I've got multiple wearables. The thing is, they never agree with each other. So I just don't think we have the sleep tracking right at all. I had a device the other day that I woke up, went down, just didn't even get a cup of coffee. I just sat in the chair and started reading. And it registered 2 hours and 30 minutes of REM sleep. Well, REM sleep should be the easiest thing to track because when you are in REM, you are paralyzed. Your body does not move. It can't. There's even a condition where some people will wake up and be awake and alert, but their brain is still in REM mode and they can't move. Why can't we track REM better if it seems to be that easy to track? But we can't. I just don't put much faith in any of this sleep tracking yet. And I still do it. If another device comes out tomorrow, I'll probably get it and test it. But I'm not seeing where the sleep tracking is all that beneficial.
Well, doesn't the sleep tracking tie into the HRV?
Yes and no. Your sleep can affect your HRV, but HRV is a totally different measure. We can measure HRV when we're awake or when we're asleep. HRV is simply measuring the time in between beats of our heart. It really doesn't have anything to do with sleep other than sleep affects HRV and HRV affects sleep, but they're measured two totally different ways.
Oh, okay. Because I'm looking at like every couple of days that I have 18 to 20 hours of sleep that my watch says. My HRV, well, it hasn't come on yet because my watch is only a week old.
Right. Takes a while.
So I don't know what my HRV is just yet. Yeah. Either that or when I'm listening to audiobooks and I'm just driving down the road, I must be in a REM situation.
You might be.
Calm where I'm.
You might be very calm at that moment. I've talked about the fact that when I race on my Xbox, for some reason, my stress drops below 10, which seems bizarre, but it does.
Well, what if I set my perimeter for 1 minute?
I don't know.
So instead of having a window.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I just.
Garmin guy come back on?
I don't think we have him scheduled, but we could get him back on. I mean, he's always available. We usually wait till they have some sort of software update or some new product announcement or something. But
okay.
He's agreed to come on anytime.
I want to get used to all the activities of the watch all by itself, so I just downloaded one of the apps. The next app, I guess, has your X3 bar workout.
Right.
So I have to do another app to get to that.
There are.
I want to make sure that I understood all this stuff that this does, because
that's a good idea.
Watch that tells time.
This one's a pretty. Yeah, I've said that the toughest part about this watch is the learning curve. It does so much that you really do have to sit down with the manual or go watch the videos and just work your way through each feature. And it's a good idea. I think you're right. There's 2 different software programs we can use with this, 2 different apps. One for a lot of the basic functions and then one specifically for all the trucking functions and my workouts, and a couple other things are on there.
So I found another thing that it doesn't do very well. It will put me into riding a bicycle. And as bad as these highways are, it looks like I'm riding a bicycle for 10, 11 hours. And the watch connects to my wife's watch. And I don't know. They're kind of linked together somehow. If I have a heart attack, she's able to see my emergency contact on the watch deal. So she's like, when did you get a bicycle? What are you talking about?
Is it when you're driving?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I'm driving.
We something I noticed yesterday, I had one of those days where I needed a lot of downtime. So I actually did do a bunch of racing on the Xbox yesterday because I get downtime. My body battery goes up even though it's the daytime. But I at the end of the day, I'm looking at my steps. I'm like, how the hell did I get so many steps? And I realized if you've ever played racing games on an Xbox where you have the steering wheel and the pedals, I have the race chair. I've got this whole really cool setup. But my favorite type of racing is rally. So it's kind of on-road, off-road. When you get off-road, that steering wheel shakes hard, just like you're driving over really rough terrain. And I have a feeling it must be recording steps.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of wonder if mine is too, because I look at my step count and I'm like, I don't think I walk that much.
Now, the last time I talked with Eric, we brought this up and we talked about some really simple fixes they could make for this. And I think we might see one soon. One is just use the GPS data. If somebody's going more than 15 miles an hour, they're probably not walking or riding a bike.
Right. Oh, maybe it's I'm using the clutch. With your video game, are you shifting? Are you clutching?
Not yet.
Throttle pedal?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I've got the shifter. I've got the shifter, but I just leave all my settings on automatic right now. There's a lot to this game. I don't know if I could. Well, I could do it clearly, but I wouldn't be winning as much as I am right now. And I've got a big ego, so I need to win.
So my son and I are going to go walk the Porcupine Mountains in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
It's 32 or 35 miles in 3 days.
Nice.
And it's a backpacking adventure. Usually I just, would go camping with ATVs and off-road stuff, but I'm going to be walking this. So I have to get up to that 10 miles a day.
Yeah.
So my question is, all these freeze-dried foods are garbage. Everything that I'm finding, I found Paleo Valley. They've got some good meat sticks and that kind of stuff, and the nut butters are going to be good. Well, what in the world am I going to take for 3 days?
So I actually have
some butter,
answer.
Just pure fat.
I actually have the answer, and I can't believe I can't think of the name of the company, right? Elements? Is that it? Let me look it up real quick. So if you've heard when we have, for a while, Stan was on with me and we were doing the pit together, and Stan is the guy that introduced me to Cardio Miracle. Stan's an attorney. I met him at a health conference. He actually, the first thing he approached me with at the conference, he heard me speak and he approached me because he makes high quality paleo based freeze dried meals for like backpacking and things exactly what you're talking about. Super clean ingredients, really good stuff. And I looked at it and I thought that would be awesome for our drivers. I can't get past the whole, I really don't like the freeze-dried food when it's reconstituted. It's not awful. And short-term, something like a backpacking trip, I would absolutely do it. But the idea of, as a driver, I'm going to eat this stuff every day. And it wasn't even a taste. It tasted pretty good. They did a good job with it. It's texture. It's just the overall experience. I just don't like it. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people who would like it, but I just have a hard time putting a product in our store that I won't use myself. So we passed on it.
Right.
I think, though...
so is it like an MRE? Where you just add water and...
Well, yeah, it is like that, but it's not like an MRE in that it's been freeze-dried, so they're super, super light. That's the beauty of... freeze-dried meals for backpacking rather than just meals ready to eat. These are really light, so that's nice. I'm actually, here they are. So if you go to the website, getyourElements.com, getyourElements.com, you will find... all of their, here's some of their stuff. Now, I wouldn't eat all of it. They have one that's based on red lentils. I would stay away from lentils just because the oxalate load is off the charts. Maple mustard pork, broccoli cinnamon pork, chipotle turkey scramble, sesame garlic chicken, balsamic chicken, pomodoro, coconut mango chicken, country herb chicken. I got a lot of great meals, really clean ingredients.
Okay. Is it like where you buy like a 5-gallon pail and all these meals are in there?
Let me go see if I know they've done some kind of package stuff like that. Let me see.
Oh, yeah.
No, they have something like starter packs. These basically, even the starter pack it's just a variety of meals, but they come in each individual package. They don't come in a big tub.
Oh, okay.
So you can buy one of each if you want.
My Patriot Supply.
Their ingredients are not all that clean. I've looked at theirs.
No, they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is...
Yeah.
Let me just give you some examples of... Hold on a second. Let me go back to one of the meals. The maple mustard pork was actually one that I probably could have eaten. Let me find the ingredients on this one. So freeze-dried, cooked, seasoned pulled pork, butternut squash, maple sugar, dried egg whites, ground mustard, onion, garlic, salt, black pepper. That's it. All ingredients that I have in my kitchen.
Yep. Yeah. Just add water, you're good to go.
Yep.
And I assume that just one meal a day will be sufficient. I have,
For me,
I work with Dr. Jack, and I have his what is that powder? It's a shake mix. It's,
okay. Yeah, if you've got some other stuff like that, if you're taking those meals, and I would take some Paleo Valley beef sticks, I would take some nut butters, take whatever you've got from Dr. Wolfson, then yeah, I think one meal a day would be enough.
Well, I have to take the powders, and I also have a seaweed binder, because my heavy metals was just off the chart.
Okay.
Diesel, lead. Okay.
Hey, did you hear me?
Seaweed binders.
Did you hear the show from last Wednesday?
No. I was off for about a week. I'm just catching up.
We have a new product you're going to be very interested in. And I brought this in primarily because of what's going on with East Palestine and all this talk about these chemical disasters all around the country, and people are worried about this kind of stuff. And Enviromedica, we had the CEO on, we carry their probiotics and a couple other products, love their products. They have a product that I've used, and I really didn't know if we would sell enough of it. We have to be careful, limited, warehouse space. You can't just bring in every product under the sun, no matter how much you like it. You've got to make sure stuff will move and we have enough profit and all that, stuff we have to deal with. So I really didn't know if this product was a good product for us to carry. And occasionally I would just recommend it to somebody and say, go right to their website and get it. I decided to bring it in. It is bentonite clay in a very, very fine powder. And bentonite clay is pretty amazing stuff. And there's about 300 different versions of bentonite clay. It's totally natural. We go dig this stuff up out of the ground. But depending on where you dig it up, there are different forms of it, kind of. This particular form of bentonite clay is magnetic. So you put this stuff in a hot bath, and it literally, as you are sweating and detoxing, it pulls the heavy metals right out of your body.
Nice.
Yeah. Give that stuff a try.
Like you would put it in the bathtub like Epsom salt?
Yeah, except it's a little trickier. But I'll just walk you through it. It warn people because it is a little tricky. This powder, have you ever seen powder that's so fine it won't absorb water? Like it repels water, you can't get it wet? That's what this is.
Yeah, kind of like diatomaceous earth.
Correct.
Really
hard
thin like that.
Yeah, that's what this is. So you actually take and there's clear instructions on the package. But what you do is you put a small amount of the bentonite clay in a blender, put water in there. You got to blend it to get it wet. And depending on how big your bathtub is, I have a really deep tub. I love hot baths. So I have a really deep tub. I've got to pour like 2 or 3 full blender loads of this into my tub. A typical bathtub, you'd get away with 1. But you have to blend this stuff before you pour it in the water or it won't mix.
And then, what is it? Just as long as you're taking a bath, 15, 20 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, you put it in your hot tub, or will your hot tub?
No, I would not. I would not put this stuff anywhere near a hot tub. It would be a disaster. Yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
I also use a bentonite clay toothpaste.
Okay.
Because it pulls toxins right out of your mouth, your gums, balances pH, balances bacteria, detoxifies. It's a great toothpaste. Comes in a powder, again, a nice light powder. Get your toothbrush wet. And the brand that I use, they mix in peppermint essential oil. So you just stick your wet toothpaste into the powder. It picks up a ton of it. You brush your teeth with it. I do that in the morning. And then I use a not a carbon, but a charcoal toothpaste at night.
Huh. I'll have to look that up. I just use fluoride free.
We are working with this particular dental company. They have some really, really interesting stuff. They actually, you know how I'm into red light and light therapy. They have a mouthpiece that uses red light therapy. You stick it in your mouth and you turn it on for 10 or 15 minutes. It kills the bad bacteria, but not the good. So We're in the process of possibly partnering with this company. We're not ready yet, but when we do all of our background work and our due diligence and make sure everything's the way they say it is and it works and their customer service is good and all the other stuff, then we may bring these products in.
Look at that. Yeah. Now, some of the products that I've noticed, it's almost overlapping or identical to what I get from Dr. Jack.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially like the vitamin D drops.
Some of it,
and some of the
I would actually say most of it is not because we work together. We both came to all of those things separately. And, you look around the natural health world and most of us have settled on the same products. Paleo Valley is big, Four Sigmatic, all the mushroom coffees, all the same products we use. If you go to other practitioners, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. I think we all did the same work. We went looking for the best product we could find in every category. And I think it's interesting we all came to the same products.
It sounds like you drink your 2 cups of coffee. How did you try Dr. Jack's coffee?
I have not. The only reason I haven't is because I have determined that this idea of mycotoxins in coffee is a real thing. But I also know that it just does not seem to be detrimental to some people. And I'm one of them. I've been through Bulletproof Coffee. They were the first that were mycotoxin free. It did nothing for me whatsoever, and it's expensive. Ben Greenfield brought out his coffee, Kion Coffee. Same thing, lab tested, no mycotoxins, tried his. Didn't notice any difference. I've tried several brands of really clean mycotoxin free coffee. It does nothing for me. I just don't think I'm sensitive to the mycotoxins.
My wife makes it for me and puts it in half-gallon glass jars because I can't do anything with plastic anymore.
Right.
So I have that throughout the road, and then if I don't get home, and then I try, I get some truck stop coffee, there's a huge difference in what.
I have heard lots of people say that. Yeah, I have heard lots of people say that, and I believe them, absolutely believe them. I just haven't experienced it myself.
Yep. No. I guess it would be the same as what you're talking about with Lisa when she has the oil, coconut oil,
right?
Bulletproof oil,
right? Yeah. Some people, no matter what you do, they just can't deal with that stuff. Now, part of it for Lisa could very well be that she lost her gallbladder a long time ago.
That could be. I never had the issues with disaster pants or any of that stuff that you guys talked about early on.
I didn't either.
I was really cautious.
Yeah, I wasn't cautious. I just jumped right in and started dumping tablespoons and then went to 2 tablespoons and never had any digestive discomfort at all. Yet, the only thing I had, and I talked about it many, many times, was I had poor fat digestion and I had to work on that a lot.
That's my next thing to work on is my fat digestion. I think that I am still borderline diabetic. But I didn't know until I was listening to your Wednesday show that drinking a half-gallon of coffee a day is working out my blood sugar.
Right.
Who'd have thought coffee would mess with your blood sugars?
The path that it takes is coffee increases cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine, and it tends to put us in the fight or flight mode. And when we're in the fight or flight mode, our liver starts producing sugar. So decaf won't do that. And if you want the absolute best decaf coffee I have ever tasted, and it also has all the reishi adaptogens in it, so it's decaf, that'll chill you down a little bit. Then the reishi will really, really chill you down. The Four Sigmatic ground coffee we carry in the store now is outstanding.
I'll have to give that a try. Yep. Well, look at my life has changed since I was listening to you early on, and then when you were on nights with Kim, I didn't listen very much. Then I kind of went, yep, we're doing it. Well, before that, I was drinking like 2 or 3 2-liter bottles of Mountain Dew or Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
Every day.
Very common. No.
Or you go to the truck stop and you're like, yeah, I don't want the 32 ounce. I want that 54 ounce. That super jumbo taker.
That's right. It's a bargain. It's a bargain.
I don't want ice in it because I'm getting chipped if I put ice in it.
You want more liquid. That's right.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, my beverage today is just water and coffee. That's
here's something else we should think about. Not only have we had tons and tons of success stories over the years, what we've really never had, we've never had somebody call and say, I did this and it didn't work. Not once.
Well, if they did, you would easily find out.
Right. We would fix it quickly. Yeah, right. Exactly. Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. When people comply, it worked. Every time. I've never seen a failure.
Yep. I was just, 325 at my heaviest. I would just walk to the back of my truck and that would be my exercise for the day.
Yeah.
Now I'm walking 5 miles a day or so.
That is
That
awesome. Congratulations.
How do you do it? See, I've got to look on, see if I can find your videos, because I'm still using the original page where you do one exercise this day, flip it over. I've heard that you've broken that down into 3 different exercises for every day. So there's not a day that you're resting.
Well, sort of. So what I did was I broke it down into 3 workouts because that's the way I used to work out. When you were working out as hard as I was when I owned the gym, I just needed that much time to get to all the different things I wanted to work out. But when I started looking at the X3 bar, I said, well, I get the on and off every 2 days, but I want to add a couple exercises. The basics are fantastic. If you do nothing but stick with that one page, you'll still get really good results. There were a couple other movements I wanted to throw in, but I didn't want my day to get too long. I didn't want my workouts to get too long. So I thought, well, I'll just make it 3, but it's not so that I work out every day. Because I'll tell people, look, you could do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you wanted to, that's your only workout for the week, and then you do it again next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're still going to get really good results. If you want to do the 3 workouts in a row and then take 2 days off and restart it, do it however you want. If you're working out like this a couple to several times a week, you're going to get incredible benefits. So that's why I did it, just to be able to add a couple more movements without making my workouts longer. So I went back to the method I had developed decades ago: push, pull, core, and legs. One day I push, one day I pull, one day I do core and legs, core being stomach and lower back, and legs. And that's just the way I've always worked out, and I've always liked that, so I just applied it to the X3.
I feel like an evangelist.
Good.
When I do my X3, it's usually in a loading dock.
Really?
Because I know that I'm never going to get out of there in a half hour.
What a great idea.
I clip it to my grill, one of the louvers on my grill in front of my truck. So I got my X3 bar. I'm doing that. Somebody will walk by and I'm like, hey, you want to try this? What are you doing? And I see the guys that used to be me sitting there, and, I see the fast food bags on their back, potato chip bags, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to try this? It's super easy.
Right. Keep it up, though.
I had one lady try it, but it was kind of too long for her arms. It's almost like they needed to make the bands half size or 3/4 size.
X3 itself does not make bands that are any different length, but I found a company that does, and they are made virtually identical. They're layered latex, same design, same feel, but they make them in multiple lengths, and we carry shorter versions in our store now from that company. And I have to use them. I have really short arms. And I'm short. Oh, yeah. That's why I went looking for it, because I needed it. And we found another company that makes awesome bands, and they have them in all kinds of lengths.
Nice.
Yep. And we have them in the store now.
Yeah, I'm still on the gray. I moved up a little bit. I just reaching over my head. I'm still on white. It's the only one I have to switch over to white.
For some
And I don't know
reason,
why? What am I doing wrong?
nothing. And we have not been able to figure this out. For some reason, everybody says this. For my size and weight, I used to be, and I still am, pretty darn strong in an overhead press. And yet I can't move past like the weakest band in the system on that thing. I don't get it.
I know. Remember wrestling practice where we used to have the pegboard?
Yes.
You go up on the wall and you've got pegs and you're climbing that wall. And
you want to hear a story about the pegboard? Like I said, I'm small. I'm light. You know, when I was wrestling in junior high, 7th grade, it was underweight for the lowest weight class there was. 7th grade, the lowest weight class in Ohio at the time was 80 pounds. I was barely able to push 70, eating everything I could eat.
Wow.
I remember weight gain shakes. I used to down weight gain shakes all day long. So I was small and light, but strong. I was working out a lot. I could bench press almost double my body weight. So the pegboard for me I loved that thing. I could fly up and down the pegboard. So I got cocky one day and thought, I'll bet I could do this one-handed. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
oh no.
I thought that I would be able to pull up real quick, get the weight off the peg, pull it out and slap it into the other one. And I thought, what could go wrong? The worst that's going to happen is I'm going to fall. And that wasn't the worst that could happen.
Yep.
I pulled up real hard, yanked the peg out, and whacked myself right between the eyes with it. Knocked myself out. I don't know if it was the peg hitting me that knocked me out or when I fell flat on my back on the gym floor that knocked me out, but I was out.
Yeah.
Yeah, not one of my better ideas.
Nope. Well, back in the 80s, it was like, okay, I was a lineman. So, 200 plus. And then wrestling starts right after football season. Oh, you're 167 now. Wait, but okay. Here, lose 35, 40 pounds.
Yep.
Plastic showers, rolling in the mat, spitting a pound.
I had the kind of the same. Yeah, kind of the same experience. I was a lineman. It's a long story how that ended up. I was the lightest lineman in the county, 145 pounds playing guard. We had a whole weird offense. We had pulling guards based on the Browns way, way back when. So we did pulling guards. So I was so short they couldn't even see me coming down the line. I would catch that defensive end out there and he wouldn't even know I was coming. So I would bulk up every summer as much as I could. In my senior year, I got up to 145. And I ended up wrestling 119 that year. That was and I couldn't even make it through the whole season. About the middle of the season after Christmas, I had to bump up to 126.
Yeah, you get a few extra pounds after Christmas.
It wasn't enough. I know.
Pounds, you get to move up.
Yeah, they gave us 2 pounds over the holidays, and it wasn't enough. I had to move up.
I know this probably happened to a lot of different wrestlers at different times. You have your Friday practice because you're going to go to the Invitational.
Yeah.
Well, I was 167 and the 185. For some reason, there was no 170 pound.
Right.
But it goes 167 and 185. He put his foot on the scale. So I was 6.5 pounds over. Of course, the next morning I was under.
Right.
Yeah. It's one of those kind of things. But you joked around. You had a good time. That was just fun.
Wrestling is
I don't think they even let the kids do that.
I actually like the method they came up with. When I was a coach, they instituted this in Florida, and I actually liked it. So at the beginning of the season, we had to take each wrestler. We had to have them fully hydrated. Here was the key. We had them fully hydrated. We would check their weight. We would calculate their body fat percentage, and we would use the most accurate. We would use calipers to measure body fat, and that's one of the most accurate. We would use calipers. We would measure their body fat. And then we would set. At that point, you have all the information to set. Here is the lowest weight you are allowed to wrestle. We had a certain body fat percentage they weren't allowed under, and they had to be fully hydrated at the time. So you're not allowed to dehydrate yourself. Now we're not going to let you wrestle that weight. And I think that was a fantastic idea. If you wanted to get down to a lower weight, you had to do it within your body fat percentage.
Saturday invitational start 7 a.m, and then the better you are, the later in the evening you go.
Yep.
Well, when I got to be an adult and my son wrestled, I was so happy that he was doing out. Done. My Saturday was over by noon.
I can't tell you how many weekends I've spent my life in a gym. Friday and Saturday. Yep.
Yep.
I didn't, back when I was wrestling, we didn't have nearly as many opportunities. I would do a couple summer tournaments, might do a summer camp, but for the most part, it was the school wrestling season. When I got my son involved,
that's hard to do.
My God, we wrestled constantly. We traveled. I mean, from Florida to Colorado, Puerto Rico. We took a team over to Puerto Rico to wrestle. We wrestled all over the state of Florida and Georgia constantly. Virtually all summer long, just about every weekend, we were at a tournament.
Well, when did he have 2-a-days for football? Or didn't play football?
He didn't play football because, again, he's a little bigger than I am, taller, but we've always been about the same weight once I lost all my extra weight. He actually lettered his freshman year in wrestling and powerlifting. So instead of playing football, he was powerlifting, clean and jerk, squat, bench press, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We didn't have, I went to a Class D school, which, the lowest level. I think our graduating class had 62 or 63 kids.
I think we had
100. The whole class.
I think we had 140. Yeah. So, which was still considered really small. We didn't have a weightlifting team. We had a little weight room. Yeah. Right.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, get on Spluter's back there.
Exactly.
He's going to do these mule kicks.
Right. Yeah. Same thing for me. And then my son, on the other hand, had a graduating class of 1,800.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
The Michigan Man Makers. Oh, man. Yep. Well, hey, this has been a great conversation. This is cool.
Good stuff.
It's just like high school again.
There you go. I love it. Little nostalgia once in a while. Good stuff. Call back. We'll expand on it. All's piled up again. Let's go to West Virginia. David, welcome.
Hello, Kevin. How's Kevin?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Well, I think an oil sample.
Oh, let me go look for it.
All right. It's
there it is.
06 Internet.
All right.
Yeah,
so you said an 06?
Yeah.
Has this engine ever had any of the cam issues that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
No, I had it rebuilt when it had about 425,000.
Why?
Because it was starting to leak oil all over, and it had 25,000 hours because it's a logging truck with a self-loader on it.
So is it leaking oil or burning oil?
No, leaking everywhere.
How much?
And I knew I'd tear it apart. So, well, I don't know. Probably a gallon every 3,000 or 4,000 miles.
Oh, from leaks? Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, it was leaking everywhere.
I've never seen one leak that much.
Truck. Yeah, well, it lives a rough. It lives a rough life.
One of the things I would have done at that time, and we'll kind of let people know, I get people all the time that call me and say, I'm leaking that much. And I'm like, I've never seen that. Look, take a gallon of oil once and pour it out on concrete. A gallon.
Right.
You have a lake of oil. It's a lot. I've never seen an engine leak that much. Now, I've seen engines that do leak a lot, but every time I've checked, if they're going through a gallon and 3,000 miles, they might be leaking about half of that. The rest is being burnt. There's a pretty quick test. Since you decided to rebuild it, you were going to fix both problems at the same time anyway. But if somebody's wondering, you could do a crankcase pressure test to rule out that we're burning oil.
Yeah. Well, they when they did rebuild it, they found like 2 cylinders, broken rings in the So
Ooh.
I think it was a good idea.
Okay. Yeah,
It
definitely.
was the old. The
Well,
first,
see, there's where
the
your oil
company-
consumption was.
right. The ISX, when they first come out, they had problems with the carbon at the
They-
top,
They had problems
And they
with
did-
everything.
and it would.
They had problems with everything. They still do, in my opinion.
I don't know. I love this truck.
Well,
Then-
I know, and a lot of people do, but we went through the cam issue that went on for years and years and years. When it first happened, we got a bad batch of cams. Okay, why do we still have a bad batch of cams 6 years later? Oh, well, we had metal flaking, and yeah, I know what the problem is, but why isn't it going away? Then we had the fuel pump. The fuel pump comes apart, takes out the rest of the engine with it. Then we had the oil filter issue. Then we had the fuel issue where put the wrong fuel in this stuff and it was attacking the fuel lines. I mean, we've just been through issue after issue with this engine.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I know, but
But-
it doesn't affect all of them. And so I kind of beat that dead horse. Couple things I'm seeing on here. Are you asking about this oil sample because you have any issues, or are you just asking in general?
Well, mainly just in general. I did replace an injector.
Are you-
Wednesday.
Yeah, I could see that there may have been an injector issue. Are you using the catalyst?
Yes.
How many miles are on this in-frame? 140,000, is that right?
Yeah, right about 140. Yeah.
This thing is not tuned well. Something is not.
Yeah.
Right? We either have intake restriction, exhaust restriction, the timing's all out of whack, the valves aren't set right. Something about this engine, it's not burning fuel well.
Yeah.
Your soot at one point was 3.5. Maybe that, well, no, you had 30,000 miles on the oil that time. That's really high soot, 30,000 miles on the oil. Then it went down to 1.9, which is still really high to me. And now you're at 2.9 again. We produce soot because we don't have complete combustion. So we have to figure out why not. Have you ever had anybody really good look at the overhead and the tune on this engine?
No, nobody's ever looked at the tune, and they set the overhead when they rebuilt the engine. I haven't set it.
Who did?
I usually do all that myself, so
Who did?
but I haven't set the overhead. When they rebuilt the engine, they
So the shop.
put new heads. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you've done an overhead, sounds like you do your own. You know that it's a fairly simple, straightforward procedure, but you also understand how bad somebody could screw it up.
Oh yeah. Yep.
If I were you,
probably.
since you can do this yourself, if I were you, I'd get in there and look at that overhead.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's time to do it anyway. It's past time to do it.
Right.
On that ISX, I would not go past 100,000 miles between overhead. I know that Cummins calls for like 500,000. I think they're insane.
Right. Yeah, I checked. When I put the injector in, I checked a couple of valves, and they seem just a little bit loose. So, but I didn't adjust them yet because I'm waiting on the right feelers gauge because I didn't have one that was an angled so I could get underneath the dam.
Right.
Because those things are a pain in the butt.
Yes, they are.
Made.
Yes, they are. Do you frequent Pittsburgh Power at all?
No, never been there.
But since you can do your overhead, I would do it yourself. Any work you could do yourself these days, I'm all for it. But I think I would also, when you got done with that, I think I would just drop in, throw this thing on the dyno and let them look through the tune on it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, I have an extra ECM. I was thinking about sending it up there and having to tune that.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah, because I did buy an extra ECM.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, and having them tune it, and then I just change it out.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. I'm not seeing anything else that I'm overly concerned about. I'm not seeing a lot of wear metals. Your silicon is borderline. I mean, that same sample where you had 3.5 soot, you were at 11 on silicon. We really prefer 10 or under. And this time you're at 10. So
Right.
you've been borderline there. That's probably where most of and the wear metals aren't horrible. They're slightly elevated. And that would be from that small amount of dirt we're getting in there. So we want to try to clean that up some.
Right. Truck does a lot of idling. When I'm running the loader, it's around 1,200 RPM. So
1200's not bad. That's running. We're staying at full operating temperature there. I wouldn't consider that idling at all.
right. Yeah, well, that's where it gets all the hours from.
Right. I get that we can't go by straight miles because of that, but I don't see that running at 1200 RPM as a problem.
Yeah. Okay. But other than that, runs. I like the truck.
Good.
I bought it brand new. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, and like I said,
and you were talking about
the fact that you can work on it is a big thing. That helps a lot.
exactly. And you're talking about the Garmin watch, and I got the first version, not the diesel, but the first one.
Yeah.
And it does count lots of steps. If you're on off-road as much as I am, I've had days where I've had 25,000 steps.
You know what? One of the
And
I've tested a ton of wearables. One of the worst for that was the Apple Watch. And as much as I love Apple products,
Yeah.
I will not recommend the Apple Watch to anybody. I just really don't think that was a great product for them.
yeah, and it also counts floors. Like I've had as many as 120 floors up and
Really?
like 25 down.
See,
I never did figure that.
I watch my floors pretty closely because I live in a house with a ton of stairs and floors. And I actually, there was a time where I used to try to be really efficient with my movement. Like, if I'm going to go to the other side of the house or, down to the garage, I try to think through everything and I'll take it all at once. Now I do the exact opposite. I am totally inefficient. I want to get more steps and more stairs and that kind of thing. So I watch that. And I've never seen mine register stairs while I was driving. That's unusual.
Yeah. Well, you don't drive on off road like I do.
That must be it. You're right. That must be it. Interesting.
My truck cab's going up and down, up and down, up and down for sometimes I go 3-4 miles back in the woods. And,
Wow.
and there's
Okay.
nothing smooth about the
Got it.
Yeah, they're rough all the way.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So, well, that's about all I had there, Kevin.
All right. Good
I
stuff.
had to finally talk to you. I've listened to you for a long time. So,
What do you mean to tell me this is your first call in?
yeah, it's the
Really?
first time I called in.
Because you're
Yeah.
really active on the websites, right?
Yeah,
I thought so.
I get
I
on there,
thought so.
but
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
just don't call in. I'm usually running up down the road, and the cell service in West Virginia. I
Yeah,
don't need to tell you, it sucks.
yeah. Well, I have to tell you, if I had to pick the most interesting state to drive a truck in that I've spent a lot of time in, it was West Virginia. I used to.
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily get off road, but one of my direct customers was a company in Cleveland that made the little tiny starter pots for nurseries. Do you know how many of those little tiny pots you can get inside of a trailer? A lot. And I used to do multiple stops. I would leave Cleveland and I would have like 12 nurseries. I might start over around Pittsburgh and then head down into West Virginia. And man, that was some interesting driving where some of those nurseries are.
Oh, I'll guarantee it.
Yeah. That was that. Hey, how long? I wish I could remember the details of this, but you might recognize this. How long have you been trucking in that area?
Oh, for ever since I was born.
Okay. So
I'm about the same age as you are.
okay. Somewhere on, there's all the bridges across rivers between Ohio and West Virginia and all that area down there. There's a bunch of rivers and little bridges. And I cannot remember where I was. It was not far into West Virginia, but There was a bridge down there where I looked at it, and, as far as I could tell on the map, that was the way I needed to go. It didn't have any kind of weight restrictions, but I stopped and pulled over because I'm looking at that bridge and I'm like, there is no way two trucks are going to be able to get past each other on this bridge. And it's a fairly long bridge. And I'm thinking, and then as I'm sitting there looking at it, I noticed this big wide board that ran like this was like a frame bridge. There was a frame over it kind of thing, one of those. And on the frame, way up high, was this big wide board. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, what the hell is that for? And then I see this sand and gravel hauler, this bulk hauler, come flying across this bridge at about 60 miles an hour, and his mirror is rubbing the board. That was how you got past another truck. You had to put your mirror against that board, and then on the other side, you had to get out and adjust your mirrors again. I'm sure that's not still there, is it?
Well, yeah, the bridge is still there, but you can't go across it with a truck. They put a weight limit on it.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like the bridge goes across right there, just up past Morgantown.
I think that's
857.
I think that's exactly where it was. Morgantown sounds about right. Yeah, that was, and I was a young driver at the time. That was pretty hairy crossing that bridge.
Yeah, my brother pulled out on that bridge one night. He was headed up to Uniontown, and he pulled out on the front of that bridge. Had a weight limit on it. He could go through it, across it, but he pulled out on it with the tractor and trailer, and he stopped, and the whole bridge was moving up and down. He decided he wasn't. Okay.
I don't doubt it. It didn't look all that sturdy. I don't remember. It seems to me like when I was there, it didn't even have a weight limit on it, though.
No, they didn't put a weight limit on it until they built the one to go around it.
Okay.
There's a road goes 119 goes around it now. You don't have to go on that bridge.
You can get yourself in a lot of trouble with a truck in West Virginia.
Yeah, a good bit. Around this place.
Yeah, you should be careful about taking shortcuts that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, you ought to talk to some of those Swift drivers.
I'll bet.
They know all about them shortcuts.
Well, every time
rotator to have come and get out.
Yeah, every time I see one of those pictures, and it usually is a Swift truck of somebody stuck on this really hard hairpin turn out in the woods, I'm like, I'll bet that's West Virginia.
Yeah, well, they do that a lot over towards Parsons.
Yeah.
They try to come across. There's a little road there that goes, it's called Sugarland, and it'll take you up to Thomas and get on, we had the 48, and but you can't get through their tractor and trailer because there's like 5 switchbacks on one side, and they make it to the first one usually. And that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just reading a text message they sent me about an appointment I have later today that I think I forgot about. I still have time, though.
Yeah.
All right, David, great stuff. Boy, today's like nostalgia day. We're talking about all kinds of nostalgic stuff. I kind of like it.
Yeah, no doubt.
we could use a little of that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I know this is your first time. Don't make it your last.
Okay.
All right.
I'll call in a little more frequently.
I'll look forward to it. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Oklahoma. Paul, welcome to the program.
First time I've called today.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You mentioned something about registering your when you were driving, but it was registering your steps, or if you're on a bicycle.
Yeah, right.
And you said 15 mile an hour.
I know you can go faster than that on a bike. I thought about that as soon as I said it.
Well, my top speed on a downhill on a bicycle is 55 miles an hour. Not drafting or getting towed or anything.
That's fast.
And
that's fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one guy told me, one of the guys that I passed, he caught me up later. He says, "You've never come off at speed, have you?" I said, "Not yet." And he said, "Yeah, I used to be." He was an older guy.
Right.
He said, "I used to be just like you." He said, "I got the scars to prove it." So,
I hadn't been around bikes in a lot of years. And when we moved out here, we have all these cool trails, and we even have this really long walking bike path that starts way down by the airport in Portland and comes all the way out to our town and is now extending out all the way to the Dalles. Absolutely beautiful trail. It's an asphalt trail most of the way, goes through the woods, just gorgeous. So we decided to go get bikes. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Bikes kind of come in three categories somewhat. You've got like a mountain bike, then you've got a street bike, and then you've got a hybrid. It's somewhere in between. I should have just got the damn hybrid. I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought, we're probably going to spend most of our time on that path. It's really nice. You can ride as long as you want. So I'm going to go for the street bike. Holy cow. I had no idea. It's carbon fiber. It's got the tiniest little tires I've ever seen in my life, but that thing is treacherous to ride.
Only got about 18 millimeter wide tires.
Yeah, and the problem with that path...
Inflate them to about 100 PSI.
Exactly, and they only hold pressure for about a day. You're constantly pumping up the damn tires on that thing. And the problem with that path is that it's in the woods. Pine needles, leaves. Yep. I got to get rid of that thing. So I haven't been riding in a while, so I think I'm just going to go trade it in on either a hybrid or a mountain bike.
So you had an electric mountain bike, just in case.
There you go.
Yeah. For if you go too far and you wear yourself out, and it's like,
today's just going to be story day for me, I guess. So the other time Lisa and I attempted the whole bicycle thing, we had a condo on Daytona Beach, and we decided that riding a bike on the beach would be really cool. And, you can take cars on the beach down there in a lot of places, and we thought riding a bike on the beach would be really cool. Yeah, so we bought a couple bikes, and neither one of us had been on a bike in a long time, and winter was just, ending, and so we were kind of out of shape, and we decided to take off on a bike ride. So we take off, and we're heading down the beach, and we're just laughing, and we're like, man, this isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be at all. And we go a couple miles down the beach.
Oh, and then you had to turn around and go back into the wind.
Oh, my God. We turned around and we almost fell over because we couldn't go against the wind. We almost, if Uber would have been around then, I would have probably tried to find an Uber with an SUV or something. But we ended up walking the bikes back a couple miles. It was, should have thought about that.
Where I grew up, the ride that they used to do a fun ride around. They go around the mountain, so you start at sea level. You can see the ocean for 2/3 of the way around the mountain, but you get on the part where you can't see the mountain and it's uphill. But you start that ride in the morning, and it's quite possible you go in a big circle, but it is quite possible to have a headwind the whole ride. And if you go the other way, you can say, well, I'll go the other way the next time, and you can still have a headwind the whole way. It's just like
that's weird. Yeah.
When your parents went to school, it was uphill both
ways. That's right.
Yeah.
So now I do still have to be careful of that with my new water sport wing foiling, because if you're not paying attention, it's really easy to go with the wind, but then at some point, you've got to figure out how to go against the wind to get back to where you started, and it can be really, really challenging.
Sounds like a Bob Seger song, Against the Wind.
There you go.
So my neighbor was pointing out to me yesterday about some of our bought and paid for politicians like the governor in Arizona, and then he mentioned the brain dead senator in Pennsylvania. And I said, well, he was brain dead before he got there. And he says, no, that's what they're saying now. But because he'd been in hospital for a month or something, but he's heard stories that they say that Fetterman is brain dead, but because he hasn't been there long, if he don't make it, they got to have another election. Well, the Democrats don't want to lose that seat. No, he's fine. Yeah. Have you heard anything about that?
I thought that one of the articles had a date, Like if something doesn't happen by
Yeah,
a
he's got to get
certain right. If he can make it past a certain date, then the rules change. But if something happens to him before that date, they have to have a special runoff, and the Republicans could win. Whereas if he can make it past the date, then the Democrats can still control that seat. That's what I've heard, and I'm thinking I saw a date of like August 18th, and now that I think about that, that's a long way away.
Yeah. Well, when my neighbour said, he said, no, he's brain dead. And I said, well, he was like that when they elected him.
Yeah, we all said that, and not trying to be cruel, just trying to be honest. It was painfully obvious to anybody that watched the guy try to speak that it was cruel and unusual punishment to allow that guy to run. And when I say allow, I mean it, because I don't think he was in control of his own faculties.
Yeah, but like Joe, I feel.
Yeah. Joe's, we can at least say it's just old age and dementia. Fetterman, I would venture to say, I call me a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theory, but I'm sure he's fully vaxxed and boosted. And one of the very, very common effects of the vaccine was a stroke, and that's what started all of this.
Yeah. So don't rush out to get vaccinated. It's not worth your life.
There's a new report out that I posted now. Several groups are really questioning hard whether the flu vaccine has ever been effective or necessary, or whether we should even have a flu vaccine.
Well, I've only taken that one once.
Me
since
too.
I've been in this country.
Me
But
too.
That was before. That's before. Well, I never took injections when I was in New Zealand, flu or any of that crap.
Right.
And if you got sick, it's like, oh hell. Truck driver will be strong in the back, weak in the head, and it's like, I got to go to work.
Of course.
No one's driving my truck.
Of course.
There. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you kept going, and I'll be right a couple of days, and I'll get a day off on the weekend. I'll recover then.
I took all
mostly I did.
I took all the shots they made me take when I was in the military because I didn't realize that I could have questioned them. Didn't feel like it then at the time, but now I realize I could have. I don't know what would have happened, but so I took whatever shots they told me I had to have. And then the only other time I had to have a flu shot was my grandsons were in the NICU. And I will tell you, as horrible as this might sound, if it happened again, I wouldn't do it. I'd wait until they got out to see him.
Yep. Yeah, because I came over here on a work visa, and then I worked my way up to a green card, permanent resident. Well, to get that, I had to take a bunch of shots. I don't honestly know what I took, but
who knows?
There was a bunch of needles in my arm, and you come back in another month, and
we'll give you some more.
I haven't taken any injections since, and I'm not taking any more. Period.
Nope,
so.
Me either. Nope, they have turned me into a complete anti-vaxxer now. It's complete. Yeah. Not going to happen.
Yeah, they tainted the water.
If I had kids, I would homeschool them. Nobody's going to give them vaccines. It's just not going to happen. Not doing it. I don't care about. I don't even care about the ones they say are so wonderful, polio, all that stuff. Yeah, you know what? I just don't believe you anymore.
Yeah, you lied.
You've lost all credit. Not only have you lied, you lie continually. You're still doing it when there's so much proof that you're wrong. You will never admit that you were wrong. So you have zero credibility with me now.
Yeah. So one other thing I just thought of. The other day, I saw a video guy over in East Palestine, and he's big collects samples for noxious waste and toxins and all that. He's been doing it for 30 years or 38 years or something. And he's a chemical engineer as well. And the reporter asked him, he said, so why do you say it was not a controlled burn? And he said, well, if you go down the river here to West Liverpool or somewhere, he said, there's a hazardous waste disposal place down there.
There is. I'm familiar with it.
If it was he said, if it's a controlled burn or controlled burn off, he said, you have to have in a vessel, or like he said, your engine is a controlled burn situation or a furnace, because he said you control the fuel going in and the chemical going in that you're trying to get rid of. And he said you control the amount of fuel, the amount of oxygen, and he said all that black soot up in the sky, all that chemical and everything. He said that was not a clean burn, because if it was a clean burn, and it made me think of the catalyst. If it was a clean burn, he said there would have been no soot.
That's a good.
Like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you say West Liverpool?
I thought that's what the guy said on
east.
the video. It's down East Liverpool.
East Liverpool.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's somewhere down the river from there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it is.
This guy, he said he was an expert in his field, and any major litigation or any court cases and anything that had showed up in the last 30 years, he was quite often a witness, here's the proof in the pudding of what actually happened. And then he said about sniffing it. He said, that people have been talking about, oh, you weren't exposed to it. He said, if you could smell it, if you smelled it, you're exposed to it.
Of course, you can't have odor without particles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I flunked chemistry, but that's not hard to figure out.
Well, I sort of cheated on a chemistry exam one time. I didn't know that. I knew the answers. The only reason I knew them was because I did repetition, repeat, and I knew this was a really hard test, and I was no outstanding student, but I got outstanding results on that test because I knew all I did was memorize the symbols.
There you go.
And I passed the test just by committing it to memory. I don't remember it now, but
I've admitted that I was a less than stellar student, and I think they graduated me just to get rid of me because they didn't want me back in here. But I'm pretty sure I know why I flunked chemistry. It was right after lunch.
You didn't go.
I actually did. I mean, I skipped quite a bit, but I would show up a couple times a week at least. The problem was it was right after lunch. We had open lunch, and I was known to finish off lunch with a little bit of cannabis most days. And cannabis and chemistry just don't mix. Yeah.
You were doing a chemistry test at lunchtime.
Exactly. I was usually too busy eating a bunch of pretzels.
All right, I'll let you carry on. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for the call. Good stuff. We still got calls, so we'll continue to take them. We are off to Ohio. Joe, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. I have some questions for you, and it's something you don't like to normally do, but my dad has cancer, so you can't basically hear him on the phone.
Okay.
And he asked me to call you and see what you thought. He has cancer on his vocal cords.
Ooh.
Vocal cord.
Is he a smoker ever, or
they,
did he use any kind of tobacco products, chew, snuff, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, he smokes, but he's working on quitting now.
Okay.
So they want to do radiation on him, and they figure that they can get it with that. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the best idea, but I don't know really what options there are.
So part of the problem here for me is cancer's complicated. There's lots of forms of cancer. There's stages of cancer without me really doing a deep workup on somebody. History, looking at the oncology reports, that kind of stuff. I can't even begin. I believe there are probably times when cancer gets to a point where we are going to have to resort to those things. But I can't know if we're anywhere near that, if there are other alternatives. Here's the one thing I do know. No matter what we do with the cancer, let's set the cancer aside because I really can't give you any direct advice on the cancer itself or the treatment other than to say I would seek out a functional medicine doctor to review the case. That would be what I would do. I wouldn't even be able to make this decision for myself at that point. If somehow I showed up with this aggressive cancer and they said, look, it's so far gone, you got to do this. I wouldn't be able to make that decision for myself. I would go find a good functional medicine doctor and have him review it. What I do know is no matter what's going on, the healthier we live, the better our outcome is going to be. And he's still smoking. I mean, you don't need my advice to know he has to quit that. That can't be an option. The other thing, in my opinion, that isn't an option, I would be eating a full-blown, nutrient-dense carnivore diet.
Yeah, and that's basically what pretty much all he eats is meat and eggs. Like,
is it quality?
And they just takes eggs and meat with them.
Is it quality?
Yeah, it's raised on our farm.
Excellent. Excellent. Good.
Neighbors got chicken.
Good. That
he'll eat some raw vegetables.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, some vegetables here and there, not going to be a big deal. Fruit now and then, not a big deal. Even a little bit of fruit every day. I like the addition of fruit and honey and fermented foods to a carnivore diet. So it sounds like he's got the diet under control. He's got to stop smoking. I mean, that is just not an option anymore. And as far as whether or not this treatment is the best option, you're going to have to get a second opinion, but I would seek out a true functional medicine doctor. Because if you go to another oncologist, another traditional doctor, you're going to get the exact same advice. They all use the same playbook.
Okay.
You know, I might start with
like fruit, and
I might start with somebody like Chris Kresser.
What was his last name?
Kresser, Kresser. I actually considered doing their functional training. And actually sitting for the boards and everything. And I don't have the time, and that's not where I want to go. I mean, I like dealing with, being first contact with people, helping them with diet and lifestyle. And then if they have a medical issue, we have lots and lots of people we can refer them to now.
Okay. And he doesn't, no pop, no sugary anything. The most sugar he gets is honey in his coffee, is 1 or 2 a day.
So some cancers some cancers feed on sugar. We absolutely know that. And we even test for certain cancers with sugar. We take glucose, we inject it with a dye so we can see it on an x-ray. We feed it to the patient, and we start doing x-rays so we find the dye in the body. And wherever that sugar goes, there's the cancer. I've simplified it, but that's basically what they're doing, because we know there are cancer cells that can only survive on sugar. They can't survive on fat. Most cells can live on sugar or fat. There are certain cancer cells that can't, and we can starve those cancers of sugar and sometimes cure them. This probably isn't one, because he's on a really, really low sugar, very healthy diet. So my guess is this is almost completely to do with the smoking.
All right. That's what I told him too. And I had mentioned the sugar, and he's like, all I do is the honey. I said,
honey's fine.
Could still be part of it.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. Our body will use up, when we're eating really, really low carb like he is, and we ingest some sugar, especially in something in a really natural form like honey, our body will use it. And there's not enough to really, feed the cancers. But when you look at the standard American diet, people are eating 300 grams of carbohydrates a day, then yes, you're going to feed cancers with a diet like that. I don't think the way your father was eating was feeding any cancers at all. I think it's strictly the smoking.
Yep. Then the other thing he wanted me to ask you was, back in 2017, he went in for a PSA, whatever. They tested him for one, and he was 10 point something at that time.
So what?
And they wanted to do biopsy and all kinds of stuff.
Nope.
And he's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Nope. He made the right decision.
So now he just had it, or they checked it again, and he's at 8.4 or something like that. So it came down.
Correct. PSA is a horrible measure of prostate cancer. It's all we have. It's easy. They make a ton of money on this. They run the PSA. Oh, look, it's high. We better do a biopsy. Have you ever heard me explain how they do this biopsy?
Yeah, a bunch of needles. And
I think it's 12 needle sticks, I think, to hope they might find the cancer. We can't see to know where to do the biopsy. So they just randomly start poking around. There's horrendous side effects to this. So he made the right decision. And it's been proven. He actually came down over this time. They would have been doing biopsies for nothing. PSA is a horrible measure to use.
Yeah, and that time I forgot he had told me this too. They did an x-ray and they're like, well, it's a normal size. Everything looks good. They felt it or whatever. And they're like, feels normal.
Oh, great.
But he has a problem peeing. And he's like, that's my issue.
Well, so do a lot of men. Have him do some Kegels. All those issues with, any kind of ED or issues with frequent urination or constantly thinking, all that goes away with some simple Kegels.
So I told him to do those too a while ago, and he said, I just asked him the other day when he asked me to call you. And I said, have you been doing those? And I did, but I forget.
Oh, here, let me help him here and help you because you've been giving him really good advice. So have you ever introduced Wim Hof breathing to him?
I have not.
Do that. See if you can get him to do the breathing. And here's what I do. And this, I've tried for years to do Kegels on a regular basis because I know they're good for you. And I'm the same way. I get lazy. I forget about it. I don't do it. And then I'll go a year and think, I should go back and do that. And then I'll start again. Now I never miss them. I made it part of the breathing. So, you do your 30 breaths.
Same thing.
You do your breath hold. And then when you do the 15-second breath hold, I do 5 Kegels, and then when I get to the 5th, I hold that for the last 10 seconds. And the results have been incredible.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing because one day I thought, well, it's a good time to do that because I'm paying attention to
That's right. That's right. And there are so many benefits from the breathing. I always go back to the breathing. There are times when I get, busy or lazy or whichever one, and I skip it for a while, but I always come back to it. There are too many benefits for me not to do the breathing. And every time I do the breathing, I do the Kegels. So it's working out great. In fact, I
have the same problem.
My new habit stack, I really love. I do the breathing and the Kegels while I'm in the infrared sauna. So I get it all done in 20 minutes.
Killing a lot of birds with one stone.
And it actually, the sauna made the breathing more effective, and the breathing makes the sauna more effective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have for today. I appreciate the info.
All right. That's all we need. Good stuff. All right. I'm going to wrap this up for today. We are all out of calls. I have a bunch of topics here, but I'll probably try to do some sort of a recording this week. We are live this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday is a recorded show. It will be part 2 from our recorded show this past Friday. We will be on the road headed down to Anaheim. Not my favorite part of the country, but it's a really, really big health show that we don't want to miss. We're going to be meeting with a bunch of our vendors that will be there at the show that we haven't met yet, and we'll be looking for a lot of new vendors and products. So I'm pretty excited about it. 4 of us from the company are going down. So I'm going to spend a good part of the rest of this week trying to put together a new mobile setup. I'm going to attempt to do my entire show from either a phone or an iPad while I'm gone. I'll take my laptop and everything else I need, my equipment, but I'm going to attempt to finally finish a true mobile setup for broadcasting, and this will be a good chance to test it. So other than that, who do we have? Oh, I think we have Paul Chek coming back this week from the Chek Institute. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be Wednesday. A lot of great stuff. I'm looking forward to talking with Paul. We haven't had him on the show since the whole COVID disaster and the world changed. So really looking forward to getting his take on everything that's going on. We will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always the hard work, and master the journey.